Country Road. But oh my God, what was that? What was that?
Sorry.
Oh. Whew. Sorry. Will you just give me a start talking? Start talking now, something. I'm sure there's like a visual. Yeah, you have to stretch it out and then pause it. Yeah. Okay. Can I have one of these? Because my friend is
Awesome. Thank you.
This is handy dandy. Those are nice.
You can take a couple of those too if you want. I'm trying to get
For
them
like handouts.
either or. If you want one for yourself.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Renee, and I welcome you to the library this afternoon, and welcome also to our viewers who are watching via live stream.
If you would please note the feedback forms that are on the back table and take a moment to share your thoughts with us. Your feedback does help us plan for future events. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Elizabeth Berner. Elizabeth is the Washington County Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent under the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture Cooperative Extension Service. As an extension agent, she conducts educational programming, including nutrition, family life, finance, health, and wellness, and works closely with the Extension Homemakers Council. Today's program is How to Talk to Your Doctor. It aims to build patient confidence when talking to healthcare providers, equip patients with the right questions to ask, and provide helpful tools for healthcare visits. I'm going to turn things over to Elizabeth. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Renee. So today we're going to talk about a few different ways to prepare for a doctor's visit, because that's a very important part of good healthcare. We want to make sure that you know what questions to ask, you know how to approach that, because sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially depending on what the doctor's appointment is for. So this is just kind of a basic guide to help prepare you for that. So for those that are in the room, I have passed out an orange pre-question form. If you wouldn't mind just filling that in before this, just because I want to be able to gauge kind of how this information may have helped improve your perspective of this. Especially because this is an ongoing project that we have in partnership with UADA, which is University of Arkansas Cooperative Division of Agriculture, and UAMS. So we're always looking to grow and improve our curriculum. And so we do have a handbook, and I do have physical copies, and then it's also available online. And if you want, feel free to email me. My email is eberner@uada.edu. I'm more than happy to share copies with that digitally. It's got all of the kind of guidelines that we're going to go over in this PowerPoint as well. So the idea is to help build that confidence before you go to an appointment, know how to prepare for that appointment, what to do during the visit, and also what to do after, especially when we're talking about medications and even follow-up. So the first step that we want to think of is remember. And so with this handbook, it's kind of punny, but we're going based off of your hand and the 5 fingers to go through the steps. So the first one is remember. And so one way that they say is just to kind of point at your head or think of tying a ribbon on there. So that's essentially just to remember to bring the things you need to read, hear, and talk to your doctor. So that's your driver's license or ID, your insurance cards. It's also if you have hearing aids or glasses, because I know like me, if I don't have my glasses, I'm not going to be able to read anything. So just having what you need, those little things, that can help you be prepared and also confident when you walk in. It also, as we go through, we tend to have a lot more virtual options for doctor's appointments and things. So when we're talking about that, just making sure you do have the software or the app needed, you have the login information, just because it's like a job interview. You don't want to be stressed before you go in. You want it to be as relaxing as possible. So these are the steps that they recommend for this step 1. And so it's really just those list of things, your insurance card, ID card, glasses, hearing aids. I think one of the most important ones, and one I use regularly as a helper or listener. I know especially when I have gone to several doctor's appointments, it's always nice to have somebody else who can hear, especially if it's for an operation or something major, because they tend to talk a lot about those things, and they kind of go a little bit sometimes overboard with the information. So having somebody else who can ask questions, who can kind of help you remember those details. I know that's something I personally do. I always have somebody else come with me to some of those bigger appointments. Calendar and schedule is always a big thing, just because you do want to be able to be available to go to that doctor's appointment and remember it. Especially because with some, you may end up having fees if you cancel too late. So just keeping track of that and staying organized. And then also just making sure you have all of your medications, and we'll talk about that in step 5, which is the very last step. But that's really important for the doctor to know what you're taking and be able to treat you properly. And so step 2 is the 2-minute history. And so this is basically your elevator pitch. You want to get all of that important information in front of the doctor pretty early on, just because that's the point of the doctor's visit. You want to be able to give them the information they need to be able to treat you effectively. And so a lot of what that specifically is that short list of your important health problems, the reason you're visiting. Sometimes it's just for a checkup, sometimes it's because there's something specific. So just giving them an idea of what to look for when they're talking with you. Also, you need to know when your recent problems or symptoms have started, just because that duration is so important to being able to treat things and even identify what that is. And that's also important to write those things down, especially when we're talking about blood pressure and headaches and things. Just being able to keep track of that, because I don't know if y'all are like me, but I get busy and it's like, oh, hey, I kind of feel this, and then I get in front of the doctor and I don't remember. It's kind of the way I always think of it. It's like going into the grocery store without a list. It's never a good idea, because as soon as you walk through the doors, you're going to forget. So it's kind of like that, but it's just focusing on your health care and making sure that you are able to keep up with that and help the doctor help you. And so it's also important to have, again, those list of medications, or even have those medications that you're taking physically with you, just because that is an important part of your medical history. And then ideally, you want to be able to share that information in about 2 minutes or less. And I do have an example of what that would potentially be. And I believe it's on this next slide. Yep, so an example of that, and that's following these steps of writing down what your important health problems are, why you're at that visit, when your recent problems started, and what you want out of that visit. And so with this example, and I'm just going to read it specifically here, is I found out I had type 2 diabetes about 3 months ago. I started a diet and have been taking pills for it ever since then. I have lost about 25 pounds, and my blood pressure readings have gone down more and more each month. When I was told I had diabetes, I also found out that my blood pressure was a little high, but the doctor wanted me to just watch what I ate and start exercising. I am at this visit today because I need to get my blood work done to check on my diabetes. The doctor had said if I lost weight that I might be able to stop taking the pills for it. Also, I need to get my blood pressure checked. The doctor had said if I watched what I ate and exercised, it would get better. But again, if it didn't, I would need to start medicine for my high blood pressure. So of course, that's kind of a more telling yourself what you're doing. But the key of that is just have those numbers. So how long have you been on this medication? How long have you had symptoms? And then also, especially if you're taking your blood pressure every day or you're noticing spikes, especially if it's during certain times of the day, keeping track of that, because that can help them identify what potential triggers there may be. And so really just keeping track of that information, because you are your best advocate. And so really just keeping track of that, and that may be different for each appointment. You're going to have different things that you may be looking at when you go to your general practitioner, if you go to a dentist. So just kind of keeping those in mind, really focusing on those numbers, and also just being able to explain what is going on. So then the next one is step 3, and it's words. And so a great way to remember that is just that when you have 3 fingers up, it looks like a W. So that's essentially being able to repeat information back in your own words. And I think that is probably, I mean, all of these are very important, but that's probably one of the most important, just because especially in the medical field, you'll hear a lot of different words, Sometimes people get so used to what they know and how they've been taught to say it, that it's not in what I call normal, kind of everyday language, especially if you end up going to a specialist. Sometimes they may talk out loud about potential options. I know I at one point I had to have a tooth removed. And so the doctor was like, oh, well, here's this, and we can do that, and we'll just do a bridge over. And he was just talking out loud through the options. I was like, wait, hold up. Like, what's that going to look like? Is that actually what we're doing? And so sometimes they throw a lot of ideas out, and you have to be able to repeat back, say, hey, what is it that we're actually doing? What is, especially when you're looking at medication, do I need to take this a specific time of day? Can I mix it with other things? Does it need to be taken separate? Just because you do want those medications to be effective. You don't want to potentially, I mean, not necessarily have side effects, so that is a potential with some things. But you also want them to be effective, and sometimes medications or vitamins and supplements, they can kind of negate the benefits of each other. So definitely, anytime they mention something, especially when it is an action that you should be taking, whether that's the doctor or nurse, definitely taking the time to repeat that. That's always a good thing to do, just so that way they know that you understood and you know that you understand what they were saying as well. And so there are a few examples of just kind of starter statements. Of course, definitely modify it to whatever works best for you and whatever is most comfortable to say. But it would be, so here's how I understood you, so when I go home, I will, you just told me a lot of information, let me be sure I got it all. And then there's those spaces for you to write those out. And that may even be a spot where if something comes up when you have a doctor's appointment, maybe writing down notes of, oh, hey, they said this, I want to double check what they said. Just because, again, sometimes those appointments, they tend to go a little bit faster, so it's all about controlling that time and really making that work for you. Because again, it's your appointment. You want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that. So I do have a very small audience in here, but I just want to know if y'all have experienced that, if there's maybe different ways that you have approached that yourselves.
I do it all the time in so many conversations, and it's really helpful in the doctor's appointments too. I'll say, so I blank, 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 based off of what they said, literally. It really gives a lot of room for whatever gaps in my understanding there are that the doctor then fills in.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's very good to be able to do that, and I think sometimes that's also where having that helper or listener come in, just because I know my mom is always someone, if I have a big appointment, I'll say, hey, can you come with me to this? And I don't know how she does it, but she'll ask questions, and I'm like, oh, hey, yep, nope, I didn't even think about that. That's good. I'm glad you said it, because that could have been important later. And so that can help, especially with that word side. So even though these are 5 different steps, I feel like there's a lot of overlap in how they can be used in a doctor's appointment, or sometimes just daily life, or if you're going to the pharmacy, this is something that you could use as well. And so then step 4 is for forms. So really, don't forget to fill out your forms completely. Those forms can help, one, identify your basic insurance information, your ID. It also helps you form a history, especially if we're looking at your dental records, different things, and then needing to transfer that information to another doctor. When you do have those forms, it does help with that information transfer. And then also just filling in what is going on. And it kind of goes back to that step 2 of why am I here, what's going on. And then it's also looking at your history. And so being able to know what information you need to fill in. And I know a lot of these forms are going more virtual and online. And so that can be both helpful and also hard, just depending on how it's sent, if it's been received or not. But it is a good thing in the sense that you do have that information that you need in front of you. You can fill it in whenever. You don't have to fill it in specifically at the doctor's office. Because especially when we're looking at potentially surgery histories, medications, a lot of those medication bottles or even vitamin bottles, it's kind of a lot to carry with you. So being able to do that a little bit more flexibly is nice. But also just having that information available for you if it is one of those physical forms you're filling out. And then also, if you do need help filling it out, definitely ask for help, because that's actually one thing that a lot of people don't do. And that's not something that's going to help you. You really need to ask for help to make sure your information is correct, because that's going to help the doctor help you. Because again, that's why we go, is to help improve our health, or even maintain it. So just making sure that you do have that information. Also knowing which doctors that you go to see, having their addresses and phone numbers. And so that's one good thing with this pamphlet, is it does have those spots for that. So this is a great thing to take to that doctor's appointment. You can have those questions in front of you, and also just have your doctor's information, your past health problems, especially because when you go to the doctor, a lot of the time they want dates and specific times, and for me, it's out of sight, out of mind sometimes. So just having that list and knowing what you have, especially because, I mean, I'm not that far yet, but I've got way too much to write down. So just having it kind of in a together spot, and even sometimes just having another page to have that filled out and kind of lessen that anxiety that sometimes comes when you go to the doctor. And then also just be prepared to take notes during a doctor's appointment, because again, it's kind of like an interview. You want to write down important dates or times, and if they have medications, writing down what those are, potentially writing down that dosage of how much you should take. And then also, if there are specific things that they want you to do, definitely taking those notes, because sometimes it can be a lot. And then just being able to refer back to that, and even just letting the doctor know, say, hey, is it okay if I call you back? And a lot of that does depend on the relationship you have with your doctor, but that's an important one to build. Just being able to go back and say, hey, I just want to make sure I understood this correctly. You said this. So taking those notes can help you refer back to that, know what you have, and understand kind of what they want you to do in that process. So again, this is just that fourth step of not forgetting to fill out those forms fully, just because it does help you keep track of that information, and it does help them when it gets to that treatment part. And then step 5 is to take your meds. And so you want to do that as labeled. And ideally, you would take all of your medications to your visit. That includes anything that's over the counter, vitamins, herbal supplements, just because all of those interact differently, and it does help the doctor understand potentially where those might be affecting you, how they might interact with potential medications that they prescribe. And so just making sure that you have those. But again, sometimes those are really big, and sometimes we have a lot of them, and it's kind of hard to keep up with. So one thing that is good, and this is included in that booklet as well, is a medical list, a medicine list. So basically just having that name of the medication, the description of it, and that's what it looks like physically. With this one, it's a pink and red capsule. And then also just what the purpose is, and that can help whenever you get into those conversations with your doctor of determining what it does, maybe what the timing of that when you take it should be. Also the dosage, because sometimes, especially with that example, that dosage may change based on what the doctor finds, how that conversation kind of evolves. So just knowing how much you have there. And then also when you take it with days and times, because with some medications, they're very much, they depend on the time of day that you take them, whether you take them with food, without food. And so just knowing what you have on those. Some people may have more, some people may have less, but just knowing what you have. Because again, it's kind of that grocery store moment. You want to have all of those things together, because sometimes when you walk through that door or you're having that conversation, it just kind of your mind goes blank. So just having all of that information just to help you be more relaxed and more confident when you go into that doctor's appointment. So these are just the 5 steps again of 1, remember to take all the things you need to that visit. 2, that 2-minute history, so just your elevator pitch of what your health problems are, what the purpose of that visit is, why you're going. Step 3 is to repeat instructions and information back in your own words, especially when we're looking at anything that requires an action, and that's both information that's provided from doctors and nurses. 4 is to not forget to fill out your forms completely, and then 5 is to take your medication as labeled and take all of your medications to your visit, or at the very least, take a list of those. So I kind of went through that quickly. Does anybody have any questions or?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Yeah.
One, I've been, this isn't like advice that I hear within addiction recovery communities of like, you never know, sometimes the doctor isn't going to be in touch with the sort of research around successful recovery support or interventions. And one of the things that I've learned just recently in the past few months, but this is from like a medical practitioner, I don't know, somewhere else in the country, and I don't know if it applies so much in our area, is that if like I have an understanding of what's good for me in recovery based on research that I've read, and I go into my doctor might not have read that research, but that a doctor, part of their professional practice and ethical practice is that if I point them towards research, that they'll then engage with it and come back to me with whatever understanding they're able to develop through engaging with that research. Does that make sense as like a what these people within the recovery community are advising is that not to expect our doctors to be as up to date with research as we might be, and that whenever we are maybe more up to date on research than our doctors are, that it's completely within the ethical practice for us to recommend or ask our doctors to catch up on research in a certain direction, and then they'll come back to us with that new understanding.
Yeah, I definitely think, because again, you are your best advocate, so definitely having those questions, having that conversation with them, and that might even be part of that 2-minute history or just as that conversation goes on, and definitely bringing that to their attention and just saying, hey, I was looking into this, this is what I found. If it's an article, maybe printing that off and bringing that with you just to discuss. Because again, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not medically trained, but definitely having that conversation with them, bringing that information, that is a definite a good thing, especially just because with general practice, there's just a lot of different things they're looking for. So again, just kind of bringing that information with you, definitely having those list of questions and having that in your purpose for that visit.
Thanks, yeah. That makes sense under the history section of things. I have another question that's just kind of relevant personally into my community in regard to talking to our doctors. And if you don't have a good answer for it, then that's fine, but I want to ask in case. Whenever it comes to like gender-affirming care and like hormone treatment, there are some avenues where where our insurance will cover that, and so we'll go through like getting a doctor's prescription for hormones, and then the doctor will maintain both that prescription and the blood work required. But then there's some avenues where our insurance won't cover the hormone therapy that we need, and so we self-administer that, but still need a doctor's support in order to get the blood work done. And I'm wondering just like if you have any insight on how to go about that sort of conversation with the doctor.
I'm just going to process that one for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely a conversation to have with your doctor of just what the best practice is and maybe what that process may look like, just because sometimes they can maybe go at it from different directions just depending on what they have. So that, I think the short answer is just definitely bringing that to your doctor and having that conversation, just because, again, that's kind of outside of my realm of training and things. So.
You talk about what kind of hormone?
Like for trans people, sometimes they'll either be on, it's all steroid. It would all be different kinds of steroids, hormones, whether that's estradiol or testosterone.
Oh, okay. I'm through the menopause. So,
Yeah.
Insurance, they usually insurance pays HRT, like one size fits all.
Really?
That insurance pays it. That's the hormone therapy for menopause women.
And so no matter what the therapy is, typically no matter what the hormone therapy is, insurance will cover it, or insurance only covers a one-size-fits-all?
One size fits all.
Oh,
But if you are going to bioidentical,
yeah.
that you have to pay by yourself. It's expensive, but they said that it's kind of more natural. The hormone they make your own hormone. It only fits you, not one size fits all. So they are more expensive.
And the insurance doesn't
not
cover it? Have you had experience or know anybody with experience?
I had a cream.
Yeah?
It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I talked to my gynecologist. He said he's not recommend any hormone because you can get cancer from later on.
Yeah.
So I tried HRT. That's the one size fits all. I tried it 1 month. It doesn't work for me. What I did, I eat good. I did exercise. I think that's the hormone for me, hormone therapy. So I don't know, everybody different. So that exercise and you talk with a lot of people, happy and eat good food, and that makes me heal my menopause.
Yeah, that's really good to hear.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. It's just everybody's a little bit different in what works for them, and so definitely working with your doctor and medical professionals just to format something that works for you. And like I said, especially when it comes to insurance, just working with them, because a lot of the time they know of ways, or they know of a colleague that has worked with that before. So just kind of finding what works best for you based on that is, and that's again just kind of that idea of just having that as your questions and knowing those medications and things that you're taking and saying, hey, this is kind of what I'm going through with this. Like I've noticed, like maybe my blood pressure is changing, or I don't feel like it's effective. Just kind of keeping notes and kind of having almost a journal, I guess, of kind of what's going on with your body, and just being very, very mindful of that, so you can have those conversations and make the most of your appointments.
So I'm South Korean. I have English problem. It's very hard to sometimes explain to my doctor what's going on, because there's so many difficult words. I cannot remember what I have to say. So I realize as I get older, oh my God, this is really going to be a problem.
Yeah.
If I'm not explain very well what's going on with my body, they cannot help 100% what I wanted.
Yeah.
So sometimes I write down. And then my husband told me, doctor don't have time to do that. A lot of doctors really, they are busy. They really don't have time to talk to them much. Oh, I saw this, and then, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, check your blood, or check this, this, and take medicine, and bye. Kind of like that. So, and then I feel guilty if I hold too long, because I have so many questions. I feel guilty because if other patients I saw, they are open the door waiting for doctor. So if I visit, I have to very short what really want to ask him. First time I gotta go home, two pages of it. I can, doctor think, what do you say now? Kind of the way he looks like me that. So I had to very make sure that what I really want to ask to the doctor, very short letter, and yeah, this is very simple. It's very helpful. To me, it is.
That's good.
You are American. You can ask tons of.
Yeah. No, but what you're bringing up is it's really relevant in that step one. It's talking about what sort of things we need in order to address language barriers in both communicating and understanding.
Yes.
And
for me, it's very, very, very hard.
yeah.
But I'm still learning.
Hello.
Right now is good.
I think that is a very good point, and that's actually something we actually have another kind of program we do with specifically focusing on teaching medical professionals and things, kind of how to help on the doctor side of this. And so that was actually something that was mentioned too, of overcoming those language barriers and things. But honestly, I've noticed that some myself, even as a native English speaker, sometimes that medical jargon is way above my head. Like they're talking about, oh yeah, they'll talk about different things. I'm like, wait, what is that in just basic terms? Like don't go medical school on me. Just like what does this mean? Like I know y'all have this one term and it buttons everything up really nice, but I don't know what that means. So that definitely goes back to definitely writing down that history. And I mean, you made a good point too, that sometimes they are really busy. I know at one point in middle school, I ended up shadowing an eye doctor. I didn't realize how much walking they did in a day. And I was there for half the day, and it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so they are very busy. So just definitely, even if it's just bullet points of what you have, definitely making sure you do have those important things. Just because, again, like you want to advocate for yourself. You do want to make sure that you have that. And then also just, again, when they do say things too quickly, or if they do say something that's just a really big word that is like, what, I don't understand, definitely ask those questions. Like, that is what they are there for. That is what they've been trained for. Definitely make sure you're coming away from that with the information that you know you need.
Yeah, and
that's
sometimes I write down real fast, hold on a second, and I have to Google real fast the Korean word. It says, oh, okay, I understand now what you're saying. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I think this is really simple and helped me. I probably do this, and if I go, I just take this with when I go doctor and put the note with the stickers, and then after that I take it out next time when I visit, and then I put the other sticker when I have a symptom is, I probably keep this all the time.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Very simple.
Are there any other resources available for people who aren't fluent in English or are still learning English in terms of engaging with the doctor?
So with this particular curriculum, I do have it in Spanish. As of right now, that is the only language that I have it in. Depending on how much interest there was, I could potentially get it translated into other languages.
What about resources within the state medical system or the local medical system that can help bridge language barriers? Like for all the doctors who haven't gone through the UAMS training, in terms of that, what other resources are available to us?
So I would go back to just UAMS in general. They have amazing, amazing programs, and a lot of those are very community focused. I would highly recommend checking out their website, just because they do have a lot of those resources. They have too many for me to name specifically, but they are very much community focused. They do have a lot of those resources, and they do have them in multiple languages as well.
I can understand, but I can't really express my, because I don't know some language what I have to, you know, what kind of word I have to put it in. I know here, but it's not coming out. So, yeah, but this is not that hard. This is very simple. So this is really good for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and again, I do have these digitally as well. So if you ever just want to shoot me an email.
What'd you say your email was again?
Hopefully, I don't have to go down
So it's
there.
the letter E,
Yeah.
and then Berner, so BERNER,
You over the top because you wait so long.
Okay.
and then at uada.edu.
Thank
No problem. Any other questions? Great. Well, I thank y'all for being a great audience. I do have those post questions just to kind of see how this information has hopefully improved your experience and confidence. And again, thank y'all for joining me today.
Could I take a couple more of these to bring to friends who weren't able to be here today?
Absolutely.